To finish up our coupling, all right, we're going to look at our kingpin up in here. We're going to make sure that our kingpin is not cracked, damaged, or loose. Make sure it's not bent, and we're going to make sure it's properly greased. Okay, make sure you see grease on it. Our locking jaws, you want to make sure that they're all the way around the kingpin in the lock position. And again, you want to make sure that they are properly greased. Okay. Again, we do have enough space between the landing gear and the back of our tractor to make turns. Okay. Now let's go ahead. We're going to inspect this axle. Okay, and again, our three components that we have wheels, we have suspension, and we have brakes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start with my lights back here. I want to make sure that my lights are not cracked, damaged, or loose. They are clean and a proper color, and as you can see, my flashers are working and my tail lights are working. Okay, my mud flaps, I want to make sure neither of those are cracked, damaged, or loose. Okay, I want to make sure that they're not rubbing the ground. All right, those are in good condition. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and knock my suspension out first. Okay, if you want to look right here, this is my torque arm. Okay, you want to make sure that your torque arm is not cracked, damaged, or loose. You want to make sure it's not bent. You want to make sure that all the bushings are in the proper position. Okay, the bushings are not ate out of it. All right, what this does, guys, right here, is this keeps your rear end from tweaking up whenever you take off or under hard throttle applications. Okay, so if you're taking off and this thing's bent, it's going to allow that rear axle to tweak up on you. Okay, so you want to make sure that this is not bent and this is in good shape. That's a very crucial part right there. Okay, now we're going to look at the rear end. Okay, we want to make sure our rear end is not cracked, damaged, or loose. We're going to make sure it's not leaking. All right, make sure there's no dents in or anything like that. All right, my airbags. Okay, both my airbags. Okay, you want to make sure they're properly mounted. Okay, to the back side of the leaf spring right here. Okay, you want to make sure they're properly mounted. Okay, you want to make sure all your hoses and everything don't have any abrasion, bumps, or cuts. You want to make sure that there's no abrasion, bumps, or cuts on your airbag itself. Okay, and it seems to be at the proper setting. Okay, both of them. Now, if you want to look straight down in here, okay, straight down in here, okay, we have our leaf spring. Okay, we have our U-bolts up here. You'll make sure none of that's cracked, damaged, or loose. Again, signs of loose is going to be shiny metal and metal shavings. Okay, you want to make sure that your leaf spring hanger up front is not cracked, damaged, or loose. All right. Let's actually go in front of the tire there and look at the leaf spring hanger. Okay, you look right here. Here's your leaf spring hanger. Okay, you want to make sure it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Okay, signs of looseness again will be shiny metal shavings. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a peek at our brake chambers here. Okay, we got our suspension. Let's go ahead and hit our brakes. All right, our brake chamber right here. You want to make sure it's not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. You want to make sure none of the bolts are loose. Make sure all your clamps are tight. Make sure everything's tight on that. All right. You want to make sure that you check your brake hose and ABS wire. All right. Let's see, where can we get to that at? Yeah, right here. Okay. Here's our brake hose and ABS wire right here. Okay. You want to make sure that that's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Okay. You want to make sure it's not in a position where it could be frayed. Everything looks good there. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and get down in here and let's check our slack adjuster. All right, we're gonna have to lay underneath here, okay? We're gonna look at our push rod. See our push rod? Okay, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Our slack adjuster isn't cracked, damaged, or loose. Now, with the brakes released, we'll grab a hold of this thing and we'll pull it. We shouldn't have no more than 1 inch of play, okay? Slack adjuster's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Everything looks good there. All right, so let's go ahead and let's hit our wheels. We'll start inside with our pads. Okay, you want to make sure that our brake pads are not cracked, damaged, or loose. No oil or grease. Minimum a 1/4 inch of pad. You have to have more than that. Okay, and we do, clearly. The drum is not cracked, damaged, or loose. No illegal welds. No signs of excessive heat. And you want to make sure there's no oil or grease on your drum there. All right, let's go ahead and work our way out. So I took a glance at our inside rim. Okay, now I'm going to check my outside rim here. Okay, I'm going to check in between. All right, you want to make sure that you have at least 3 inches between duals and no debris in between them. Okay, you want to make sure these duals aren't touching, okay? That could cause a tire fire. So 3 inches between duals, no debris. You want to make sure both rims are not cracked, damaged, or loose. You want to make sure there's no illegal welds on those and make sure there's no oil or grease on them. Okay, my lug nuts, they're not cracked, damaged, or loose. Signs of looseness on these are going to be shiny metal, metal shavings, or rust streaks. My axle seal. Okay, it's not cracked, damaged, or loose. Okay, it's not leaking. All right, and you just assume it's at proper operating level because it's not leaking. Okay, my valve stems, I have 2 of them. We're going to make sure that those aren't cracked, damaged, or loose. Okay, 100 psi on these tires. Check that with an air gauge. Okay, now I'm going to go over my tires here. Both of my tires. Okay, since this is a drive axle, you want to make sure that you have at least 2 30-second tread depth, no uneven wear. Okay, no abrasions, bumps, or cuts on any of the sidewalls or any of the tops of the tires. Okay, these have good deep treads in them, so we're good to go there. Okay, again, 100 psi, check that with an air gauge. Now, these can be recaps, they can be re-grooves, they just must be matching in size. Okay, you can't have an 11R and a low pro next to each other. Okay, they must be the same size.